Hello. Well, we're up to chapter 3 in Marc's mission, which is entitled The Mirror. I walked slowly to the car and got in. Uncle Jake started the car and began driving. Then he said quietly, "So, what happened, Marc?" Uncle Jake's voice kind of calmed me down. I thought he would be mad at me, but instead it seemed like he was just trying to understand what happened. I threw a papier-mâché pumpkin at Nathan James. It hit him in the face, then it hit Mrs. Carpenter in the face. Uncle Jake kind of smiled. I didn't expect that. And then he said, "I know that part, Marc. The principal already told me. What I'm asking is, why did that happen? Why did you do it?" "Because Nathan is annoying, really annoying." "So, do you throw a papier-mâché pumpkin at every person that annoys you?" he asked. "No, I don't," I said back. "Then what made you do it this time?" He kept calling me plate face. Plate face? Yes, plate face. Uncle Jake laughed. He laughed. "It's not funny," I told him. "It's kind of funny," he said. "I don't look like a plate," I told Uncle Jake. "Well, you do have a pretty round face," Uncle Jake said. "No, I don't," I told him. When I told him this, I have to admit, I was kind of yelling. I got really mad. Really mad. Rounder than most faces, I mean, you've seen your face, right? In a mirror? Uncle Jake was asking, still laughing a little bit. I couldn't believe this. Uncle Jake was agreeing with Nathan James and saying I actually was a plate face. Tears started to flow down my face again. I could feel my blood begin to boil. "Yes, I've seen my face in a mirror before, and I don't look like a plate," I yelled. I couldn't stop myself from screaming. It was like the whole world was against me, even my hero, Uncle Jake. Suddenly, Uncle Jake pulled the car over to the side of the road, put it into park, and said, "Look at your face right now and tell me what you see." Then he flipped down the visor of the car and pointed the mirror at my face. I looked in the mirror. "I don't see a plate face," I barked at Uncle Jake. "Okay, then what do you see?" I sat and looked at myself. My face does not look like a plate, but it was bright red. My cheeks were covered in tears. Even my nose had slime running out of it. "What do you see? Really, look at yourself and tell me what you see," Uncle Jake asked again. I looked at myself. The tears, the runny nose, the red face. I knew exactly what I looked like, so I told Uncle Jake, "A baby. I look like a big baby." Uncle Jake smiled and nodded. "And why do you think you look like a big baby?" I knew exactly where Uncle Jake was going with that question, and I knew exactly what the answer was. So I told him, "Because I'm acting like one?" Uncle Jake nodded his head. I'd say that was a pretty good answer. What does a baby act like? Well, they get mad and frustrated, and they scream and they cry and they throw things. Yes, they get frustrated and they scream and cry and throw things. That sounds pretty familiar, Uncle Jake said with a knowing look on his face. But do you know why they do that? Because they get mad or frustrated? But everyone gets mad and frustrated. Those are called emotions. Anger, sadness, frustration. And there are good emotions too, like happiness and excitement. But here's the thing. Babies can't control their emotions. They don't know how, so they scream and cry, and that's what you just did. You acted like a baby. Warriors have to keep control over their emotions, especially something as silly as someone calling you a name. Well, I realized there were a lot of things I needed to tell Uncle Jake. You see, it wasn't just Nathan James who was making me frustrated, There were a bunch of things that had been bothering me, and I was just starting to realize it. But I didn't know how to tell Uncle Jake. Well, what? Uncle Jake asked. I don't know how to explain everything in a way that would make sense. You just, what? There are some other things that are bothering me too. Like what? Uncle Jake asked. I wondered if I should tell Uncle Jake, but I figured that since he had helped me last summer, maybe he could help me this summer too. Just tell me, Uncle Jake said. Okay, here goes. The first thing that is bothering me is this summer. I was ready for a nice summer, a break from school, hanging out with my friends, and being able to do some workouts with you. But a bunch of things happened, and now it seems like summer is ruined. First of all, I have to go to a dumb camp this summer. Only it isn't even a camp, and it isn't even camping. It's just in the recreation center, and we're supposed to be doing physical education and also reviewing math and spelling and a bunch of other school stuff. That sound familiar? So it's basically school in the summertime. And if that isn't bad enough, it turns out that Nathan James is doing it too. The one kid I despise. It would be a little better if I had a new bike to get there, but my mom won't get me a new bike. I even took her to the bike shop to see the best bike ever, the Bentley. I thought maybe when she saw it in all its beauty, she would get it for me. Nope, she has no soul. So that's it, the camp and a bike, and that's why you think this summer will be awful? Because you have to go to camp and your mom won't buy you a new bike? There was one more thing, only I was very afraid to tell Uncle Jake about it. But once again, I figured that if I didn't tell him, then he couldn't help me. So I told him. It's jujitsu. Jujitsu? I thought you liked jujitsu. I do. I have fun at jujitsu and I really like it. So what's the problem, Uncle Jake asked. The problem is that my coach wants me to compete in a tournament. Why is that a problem? Because I don't want to. Why? Because, yes, Uncle Jake, because. Just because. I don't want to. Uncle Jake sat for a minute quietly. Then he said, so you have to go to camp. You don't like Nathan. You want a new bike. And you need to compete in jiu-jitsu. Those are the problems you think are going to ruin your summer? I don't think they're going to ruin my summer. They are already ruining my summer. Look at me. I pointed at myself in the mirror. I wasn't crying anymore, but you could still tell that I was upset. Uncle Jake nodded and then sat quietly for a minute. Well, he finally said, do you remember all the problems you overcame last summer? Of course I do, Uncle Jake. Well, these are all problems that many people have. And these are problems you can overcome, too. But they are not going to be easy to overcome. In order to overcome these problems, you're going to have to use what you already know about being a warrior kid. But you're going to have to do even more. It will be hard work. And it will test you in different ways than pull-ups and swimming and studying did. These will test your mind, your emotions, and your discipline. But if you pass the test, these problems will be solved, and it will be the best summer ever. Are you willing to be put to the test, Mark? I quickly remembered the early wake-ups, lots of studying, and crazy exercising I did the last time Uncle Jake helped me solve my problems. But I also remembered overcoming all those problems and becoming faster, stronger, and smarter than I was before. And that felt good. Yes, Uncle Jake, I'm ready, and I'm willing. Okay then, Mark, let's head home. We'll go from there. Uncle Jake got that strange smile on his face that I hadn't seen since he left. It looked like he was going to enjoy this. I just wasn't sure I was going to feel the same way. And that's the end of chapter 3.